Hi. Um, so, uh, in today's video, I just keep on checking my hair. So, in today's video, I'll be telling you more about my blue collar jobs, and I'll be telling you about selling hamburgers and working as a blue collar worker in Holland, working in a glass room, and what else in giving away flyers and be picking up berries, blueberries and currant in Austria. And yeah, that's pretty much yeah, the follow-up from Piglet is about next section is about my physical jobs. So I did variety of things in my life, and I have try out variety of places. And I think that way I have learned something about systems. So I'm here to tell you more about it. Yeah. So stay tuned if that's something for you, and off we go. So the very first job that I had, and was based on selling, was the job in a bar in Tarnów in large stairs. And I didn't stay there for too long because it turned out that 400 zloty was missing, but it turned out that my manager took that money and I haven't seen it. And he told me that I should have seen it. So that was my very first job when it comes to, selling and having anything to do with money. And this is pretty much how the man looked like. It's not like, I didn't grasp him one to one. I grasped something. I grasped this very specific type of hair, very characteristic type of hair, and he had also a very characteristic type of a nose with a as if a dot on it. Such a tiny bump, and he was quite a long nose too. And the reason why I tell you about this man is because when I was doing a course in Krakow and I wanted to study graphic and design, so I wanted to start this course so that I could do mature exam and get more points during the skill exam that would check if I was skilled enough to start those studies. And we started with my friend Anya the course, and it was actually when I went to Holland, earned some money, and then got back and started the course. And I was yelled by my sister that I shouldn't, that I spent the money, I wasted the money instead of keeping the money, and I dropped the course. So it was a waste anyway. Yeah, but I got I anyway got and studied graphic and design, managed to do that without this, history exam, art history exam. But what I have learned from just a few meetings that were there, I have learned about Hecate, and there were some, actually lectures were quite on a good level, so I liked it. Yeah. So this man, we were there with Anya, and we just went for this, for these lectures to prepare for mature exam. And he was talking to us and talking and talking, and it kind of felt like, it was obvious, like we wouldn't go for the option withdrawing the practical option. We wouldn't buy yet another part of the course. But he still, kept on talking and talking, and he was very similar to that. Boss of mine, whom I'm actually met in the large stores in the very first job. And as I mentioned, jobs for gypsy people, the very first experiences in your working environment for them are very important. So as I've seen that person in Krakow, being involved with art, I've seen this person in a prestigious university in Krakow, and I've seen this person also in Holland. When I went there on my own to work, I drank a beer and I had some inappropriate thoughts even about that person. I mean, the person who had the same type of hair, the exact same type color, and color and type of hair that this man. And the reason why I tell you so is because that's a poor story to say, because when I worked there, I had to be a teenager because the person who introduced me was Hubert Urbański. So it was maybe when I graduated from high school. Yeah, so I could be 18, right? So for sure, I didn't do it yet. And with the second man, who was the second boss, we were about to have sex, and I was, with the trousers on, and there was a big window in front of me because that was the club downstairs. There was the club, and upstairs there were those hamburgers I was selling. So I've been there only 3 or 4 days, and when sitting on that chair, we were about to start something like having sex, and he had his penis out there, and there was this window, and I fell off the chair, and I just saw him running down the stairs. And the reason why I tell you so is because many, many years later, I have shared a flat with a girl. One of them was Isa, the other one was Magda. And I'm trying to gain some information about nuns, Carmelite nuns, Magdalenki, Magda. Um, and I try to analyze the Beauty and the Beast, and I came across a lot of the times a lot of Magdas, and all of those meetings seem to be a little bit meaningful. Like I would leave with two Magdas that who studied French, and Kasia, in front of whom I used to think that she looked like a Russian girl from a movie. And then we started to drink during that time. When living with them, we started to drink this Russian champagne for 5 zloty. I wouldn't even know there was something like Russian champagne for 5 zloty that we could, go and buy. But so the reason why I tell you so is because the man with whom I was about to have sex actually not only didn't behave like a man who wanted to have sex, because if you really wanted to have sex, then you help that person that fell off the stairs and not just run downstairs happily. And then he introduced me to his wife when I was selling hamburgers. He asked me to make hamburgers for them and their children. And he also told me that he would just come for hamburgers without his wife, just to get the hamburgers for his family after that happened. But that was the period of 3 years, not sorry, 3 days, 3 days of 4 days of working there. So that's a very short period of time for me, for that amount of events. Um, yeah, and one of my cousins is similar to him, and the girl I lived with Isa and Magda. Magda was similar to that man too. And I'm writing about Bella and the Beast, and that's not the topic I'm going to discuss today because I'm not ready. But they would have this mirror, a round mirror, and Isabella was very beautiful, like very, very beautiful. You would just look at her like, wow. So that nail really fitted that girl. But Magda would also sit in front of the mirror, and when I got to know her, I just had no idea that um, that she was, the person that I could connect her face to somebody else, that she would resemble someone. Okay, so that was the very first experience when it comes to sale. And then years later, I worked in Holland, and what happened there is this story, with 400 euros that was missing, and then it turned out just the deposit was written down in the wrong way. It just, the accountant checked it, what happened, and she told me it was just a tiny mistake, but the money wasn't missing. Which doesn't mean that later on I didn't experience missing money and feeling accused and judged when I didn't steal from the job. But that was, I link it because in my second job, I didn't specifically meet someone in that job in American Express, someone who I would say that this is my family, but I met gypsy people for sure. That's for sure. Although I'm wondering about Kor, because Kor had those blue eyes and he's so slim, and I have to think about it. Okay. And then, I have to also go back in time and tell you about the very first time I worked in Holland. So that was yet again when I went with my family, and I was told that it is being done so that I would, so that it would be easier for me the next time I would go to Holland. Um, that was but the thing is, so when we went there, and there was Eric, and we were employed by Zon company, and basically my sister would tell us, sign here, sign here, sign here, and everything was in Dutch. But the sure thing, I was with my family and I felt safe and so on. But the thing is, it was my first trip to Holland, and I was still a student. So the thing I don't get is that where are my papers? Like, I didn't move out with these papers anywhere and didn't take them anywhere, and they are gone like many, many years ago, which probably is yet another symbolical thing to, um, that they start to do very early, and they try to push on a circle on you. Yeah. So we went there, and I turned out to be quite a slow worker, which is totally not in accordance with my astrology, because my astrology says that my zodiac is very fast, and that's true because I can be very fast in physical work, and I can be very effective. Because in McDonald's, I was like overwhelmed with, instructions, and get here this one, and bring this one. And when I had the feeling that everything was well managed and I had it, then more was coming, more duties were coming all of a sudden. And that was obviously a high-paced work, but I think we were acting out possibly something too. Um, so yeah, I think I have, two other examples where I really could be really fast. So, okay. So not only I wasn't doing well, and then my ego was suffering, but but I also instead of cutting cucumbers, I cut out pieces of. Sorry, we are supposed to do as if wedding. We were supposed to remove leaves, like two leaves or three leaves from each and every cucumber plant. And when doing so, I mistaken the leaves with cucumbers because they were of the same size. When the cucumber is not yet fully grown to this size, then it's, starts somewhere there, with this size. So I couldn't tell, supposedly. And, over the years, we would argue with my sister because I would climb. It was like, I don't know, 10 or 20 trees. It was like the beginning of the path, because on the path, the path with cucumbers can be like 1 kilometer long. So it's a lot to say that you did more than half and keep on repeating that. So I was always angry about that, the fact that somebody tried intentionally to skew my perspective, to skew what I experienced. And on the road, when going to work, we would listen to Peggy Brown like all the time. And in the morning we would wake up and sometimes have the skin peeling off because of the amount of chemistry that was used over there. And one time, I remembered that we were coming back on a bike, and my sister just got angry with me because I have supposedly biked too fast, and we have lost the way because of me. And, other than that, um, other than that, I think I want to tell you about my boss Eric, because Eric was quite small and he had this very characteristic hair because he used this gel for his hair, you know. So and he most probably had blue eyes, maybe green, but I think they were blue, big blue eyes. And I worked, no, I didn't work. I lived with someone like that. Like about 10 years later, I lived with Rafael, but Rafael was much taller than I was. So he was really like this what am I saying? He was like this Dutch man, you know, because of the height, very unusual height. And he was Spanish and Dutch, supposedly. And he also had two surnames, and he had really, really big blue eyes and that hair that he would put up, you know, with gel. And you know, when I went in Germany to the Bar das Klo, which was a very fancy, stunning bar, you know, filled with people, the atmosphere was there. You would have a big spider coming on your table, you know. And for me, when I entered it and I looked at the table, it just looked so American, and I loved it. But there were so many people, you know. But when it comes to my table, I was with my family, and then on the right side, we had a boy who was supposedly into me. Oh, I'm giving you the bunnies, the hair game. He was supposedly into me. Oh my god! So this is how this hair game enters, you know, everyday life when you say, supposedly, okay, okay. Uh, Okay, so the man who sat next to me was into me, right? But when I started to speak English to him, he would tell me that when I started to practice German with him, just a little bit, I didn't know much ever, but he would go like, I can speak English. And when I started to speak English, also something was off, you know? So he was more actually into my family than into me. And I was like, you know, like really thinking, no, I don't need to sit here. And that boy actually looked like, you know, Rafael. He looked like Eric from Holland. He looked like a Dutch boy. And then I even told my sister he looked like a Dutch boy, like Eric. And she's like, yeah. Yeah, because he did. But as I felt a little bit uncomfortable with all of that, like everybody was talking about me, then I just stood up, left them, and I started to talk to the waiter. Not to mention the fact that soon enough the entire bar was empty, and it was like, well, oh God. It was an unusual place for me at that time. You know, it was very interesting because you could see. To toilet brushes hanging on the ceilings, and you could also see it on the coffins by the table. And in Rzeszów, in Poland, you have a very similar bar in terms of, you know, the option for sitting on the coffin by the table, because I haven't seen it, but my best friend told me about it. So I don't have yet an opinion how does it work magically, but okay. uh, so, you know, later I went to Holland once again, and I went on my own, and this is where I met, you know, Anya with very big green unusual eyes, and I met Gosia, who is very similar to my teacher, Mrs. Gościmińska. Gosia had really, you know, beautiful big eyes, but you know, the jawline and her cheek and the proportions of her face was similar to my teacher, Miss Dorota. And I met also Marta, and that was the time when like that was the time when I worked with these girls with bicycle parts. And what we had to do was a little bit of segregation, so just putting those bicycle parts on a little strings, so to say. That was pretty much it. But this was when I developed earrings allergy. So for some time, I didn't know for which metal I was allergic, so I stopped using earrings at all. But when I started to discover hypnosis, then I basically realized that a lot of the symptoms that your body experiences um, can be affected by, people say your mindset, but you can just push further and further and further. And I bought earrings and I wear them, and they were just like, well, they were 11 zloty. Yeah, so they were very cheap. Okay, and and I pushed it through, but I came a long road in which I realized that even if I experience some pain, it doesn't mean that the pain is mine, and there's a lot of energy work that can be sent to you, so you can make it um, you can make it go away with your psyche too. But sure thing, yoga, meditation, these are good tools to start with. So Rabbi Obi was right. In the end. Okay. um, and what I wanted to tell you about it is that, the second time I was in Holland on my own, working, being employed by a Verbeek company, we actually lived in those carriages that are so-called gypsy carriages. I mean, just, walking accidentally in Tarnow. I was just walking, going for my walks. And very close to Alma, to the old shop that was very close to the city center. I went behind it to the greenish area by the river, but still close to the city center. And this is where I saw a square, and in that square there were just gypsy carriages, very neat, very well taken care of, maybe even with some flowers. And the reason why I tell you so is because I had no idea that people still lived in those in my city town, in my hometown. And I felt some unusual energy there, some different energy that wasn't entirely comfortable to me. Yeah. Mm. Okay, so this was the type of the carriage, so to say, the housing we had in Verbeek, and it was in the forest. So there were those houses one by another, just like in Finland. Oh my God. I mean, just forgive me. It's okay. I need to just speed it up a bit for you. Um, so those houses that we lived in, they were mainly 3 rooms, and they were very small. And we used to laugh always that you could open the door and basically you would walk into the two stored beds, and there was the wardrobe too. So um, you would open the wardrobe, and you would take up the entire space. So that was funny. But I had great conditions over there, and I had the room on my own. And my second job was sorting papriks. And sometimes it happened that I would go somewhere else, but it also happened that, for example, I would stick the stickers on the flowers, and I loved it because it was also so fast, so easy. I liked working with those flowers, but I think I've been there like 2 days or 3 days, no longer than that. Yeah. Okay, so what I want to tell you about um, my trip to Holland is that, something that I have already a little bit told you about in the video on symbolism. So I told you that, people would just talk about wanting to go to a party or wanting to go sightseeing, but none of them would actually do it. So I was the one, and there was the culture of people going to Holland back then without their laptops, um, so that so that they could protect themselves in case anything. There was this conviction that people steal laptops or something. So I went there without my laptop, and I didn't learn from the Hausmeister if how often would the bus go to Amsterdam, and then later from not Amsterdam to Venlo, I think was the name of the place, and then from Venlo I would have to go to Amsterdam to catch the train. And I just didn't know how far was I from Amsterdam, if that would take me like 2 hours or 5 hours or 10 hours. I had no idea. So therefore I just made, and I always felt safe. Yeah, that's true. So I decided to go a day earlier. I decided to go for the night, and the next day I had a day off. So I would just tell you that story, and yeah. And the next part comes tomorrow. So where were we? Yeah, so I went for the night, and I think in Amsterdam, when you are about to leave at the platform, then you have a lot of platforms saying, Amsterdam, ledig Amsterdam, da 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 da. Like when I go to Krakow from Tarnów, we say, there's Kraków Kokotów, there is Kraków Bieżanów. So there's a lot of stops on the way, right? So I think I even left at the wrong stop platform, and I wasn't even in central Amsterdam. So that's even worse. And then it gets even better. So I just walk happily, and it's just the very first man I have seen, and maybe even the very first bridge I have seen with flowers. And he just asked me if I, he asked me some questions, but when I was answering happily and I told him that nobody knew where I was, he was like, "Oh, you're giving me too much information." And he also repeated, "So nobody knows where you are." Um, and I was like, "Yeah, no, nobody knows where I was." And then we entered the club that was very close from the place where we met. So we just walked further along the street, entered the club, and in the club, probably wasn't there too long, because in Holland, I think we had a smaller beer, but the problem was that he gave me something to smoke, and I knew this time that it was something. I think I knew. I think I knew. I was about to try. I think he didn't hide it from me. And um, here's the thing. It didn't have the filter. It didn't have the usual thing that cigarettes have, because it was rolled up. And as I got it, I know for sure I had 3 inhales. And the reason why I know is because with my cousin and with her best friend, we just used to smoke cigarettes, and we would pass it in a circle. We would inhale it 3 times, and we would pass it to another person. And I remember, because we used to argue like, "Oh, she had one too many," or "She had one," or we would cheat with that too. That I had 2 inhales and I should have one more or something. Therefore, I knew it was exactly 6 inhales. And I drank this beer too. So my impression was that all of a sudden I turned around and I noticed that there's only me, the black man, and the bartender, who is also a little bit he was of different nationality. I can't say which one, but that person seemed to be nice. And behind me there was a man with very long black hair, and he actually didn't look safe for me. So I started to run away. And the reason also why I started to run away is because I had a feeling that I was stopping to think, that I couldn't think anymore. And I had this thought that either I will leave right now, either I will just never perhaps leave this place again. And I was running. So I approached the door, maybe some, with a faster brisk walk. And he just went and stood in the door when I was running in the street, and saying that he wouldn't do anything to me. So he wasn't chasing me, but um, my heart was pumping and I was really, really scared. So, so my feeling was like, that was really an adventure because I tried to mix in the people and I was running and I was running and I even, approached a group of people and I told them what happened, but I couldn't speak. Um, that was also harder for me to say. And they're like, so maybe you could call the police. And I was like, but I smoked something. And they're like, yeah, but in Holland it's different. It's not like in other countries, so you can still call the police. And I was like, oh, how am I supposed to like tell them? And I started to run further, and and it started to rain, and even one boy, on the bike stopped for me, and he told me he could I told him more or less what happened, or just something about picking me up, because it started to rain, and he took me to the shelter that he knew about. And in that shelter, I just asked if I could just sit on the bench and just wait till the morning, because they had no rooms free. And I got yelled at that I couldn't, and I was scared, and I told him I just wanted to feel safer. So he told me no, in a very bad way. So I think I was running further, and I was just calling any tenant house I could, and somebody just said something. So they let me in. They told me they were just watching over the place for the night. Because in Holland, there is this conviction that if you go for a holiday, then you should rent your house. Because if you will not rent your house, then somebody who is homeless can come and take away your property from you, because there are a lot of homeless people in Holland. So if you go away for a month, then it's better for you to sign the agreement with somebody, and then that person will move out. This is what Hans told me, the one I later was living with. Okay, so house. Where was I? Okay. Oh, so these people told me that that they were taking care of the house, and for me it was like, how are you taking care of the house? Because I didn't have the story from Hans yet that would give me more perspective, like what's going on in Holland. Yeah, and I told them about the shelter, that it was full, and I told them I wanted to feel safer, and they even called the shelter. They confirmed the information, and then Donna told me, okay, so I will take you to my place, and you stay over. And as a thank you, I left on her desk at very cheap chocolates because I ate cheap chocolates back then. And I also promised her to, make a portrait for her. And I took her address, thinking that when I would get back to Poland, then she would send me the photo, which she did, and that she would get that portrait from me. Because actually, you open the door for an unknown person, from a person from a different country. That's a lot. Yeah, for some people it can be a lot. So that was very, very nice of Donna to do so. So thank you. Yeah, Donna actually, this probably doesn't make any sense for you right now, but maybe one day you'll just came across this video, and I'm getting back to drawing. so, so yeah, so I would like to make that portrait. And okay, you guys, so I think I was lucky, basically, because of Donna, because of people like her. And um and I don't know for sure, because of that something that I didn't know what was that, and I smoked it, right? So I don't know how much of real danger was there. But after the many years, those words that the person asks me, if anybody knows, if you're here, and you're giving me too much information, when they perceive my socializing as giving information and they call it that name, they express it that way, then for them it's information. For them it's not socializing to go and just dance for the sake of dancing. He just told me explicitly, and in that moment I didn't hear him saying, like, logically making the conclusion that this is probably not the person to meet if they think that the fact that I went, to Amsterdam, and without telling anyone, and nobody knew where I was, and that's information. Mm, So, in that sense, maybe I avoid being trafficked. So, I was lucky. Okay, yeah. So if you want to learn more about my book Piglet, drop me a line at elkinga788@gmail.com. Piglet is still free for, till the 28th of July. And, I'm totally open to send it, to share it, and to gather reviews from some of you, from those of you who will, make the time to uh, drop a few lines here and there, even just to say, okay, I liked it, or it was so, just anything, that would be great. And because, yeah, I'm planning to place the book on Amazon. Um, and if you want to check out my course, Amelia, then you can click the link in the description of the film. You can find all the info on my website, on my Instagram and Facebook account. And yeah, that's it for today. So if you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.